the book that you're coming out with, knowing and why you made a movie, and like maybe tie that all back to, where you came from as an entrepreneur, right? Maybe you had this great family life growing up, everything else, successful business, entrepreneurs, but then it also pushed you to get married pretty early and leading to some uncomfortable times in your life too, probably.
The thing about the movie, when I was little, the only thing I wanted that I knew for sure I wanted was to be in a type of Christmas Hallmark movie. Like that was what I wanted when I was a kid. I just loved Christmas. I loved acting, all of that. And, I kind of hid that dream because I actually started feeling a little bit shy around it. There wasn't everybody wants to be an actor, and that's so ridiculous, and I'll never hit that dream. And growing up the way that I did in the Christian environment, there was some shame around it as well. And so there was some reticence there. And so I just never talked about it, and it kind of fell to the wayside. And I would do some commercial work throughout my 20s, but never anything big. But after my former husband left and we got divorced, I started in kind of coming back to myself and remembering this is a big part, of doing the work. And I talk about this in my book, Knowing. And knowing really is the journey and the process of coming to know who you are. And there's multiple stories in there, but in me remembering who I am and who I was in childhood, because going back to childhood, it's not just to show us those core moments that impact who we are today. It's also to remember the integrity and the authenticity of that little you and me. That little boy and that little girl, and the dream that was there, and the fire in our eyes and the light in our eyes, and the fervor and zest for experiencing life in such a holistic way. When we talk about our legacy, I want to live life every day. And for so much of the time when I say I need to wake up, well, I was asleep for most of my 20s and even high school. So once I started kind of waking up.
You were asleep because you felt, due to your upbringing, you had to kind of suppress that enjoyment of sort of the Hallmark movie acting, all that sort of stuff?
There was that, but I just was so oriented to everyone around me to appease and please. I think it was a many different concoctions if you were to look at the cocktail. And I think part of it was when I was about 4 years old, my mom told me that my grandma had this word from God that I was to be like Mother Teresa. And so Mother Teresa was a saint. So one, she's perfect. And then two, she lives her life in service of everybody. So just deep in my subconscious, it was like, oh, I exist here to help other people.
That's a lot of pressure to put on you. How old were you?
4.
I mean, that's great. That's so much pressure to put on someone, anybody, but especially a 4-year-old. Be like, this is who you're going to be like.
But those little moments, all of us have those little moments in our childhood. And until we remember, we will subconsciously act according to those narratives that were given to us. And so as I really started remembering, I started talking about it. So part of it is remembering. The other part is starting to actually talk about, okay, this is who I want to be, and this is what I want to create, and this is the life I want. And by way of simply talking about it, someone calls me. This is right after the divorce. I actually meet a whole group of people. And then 9 months later, someone calls me and he's like, hey, are you still in the Maryland area? I need a wife. And I was like, tell me more. And so it's this Christmas movie. It was so cute. And it was definitely a lower budget film, but I was, one of the leading ladies, and it was just so wonderful. It's one of the happiest 2 weeks of my life. It was so fun. And Adam, that's for me, that's proof so much so that one, we actually can create our own reality in so many ways. It really is so true. Something as big or as small as being in a movie, regardless of your perspective on it.
Confess that in a sense that you wanted that to happen. There's always something you wanted, and you were willing and able to put that out into the universe in a sense at the time. And 8 months later, 7 months later, it became true.
It was so magical. It was so wonderful. And I think that there's just so many micro little lessons in that. And so then with Knowing, with the book, I'm planning to have it come out in March or April, so spring 26. And, it's really kind of a bit of a manuscript. It's dense. And so I'm curious to see, once I give it to the final copy editing side, how much they'll chop it up just to make it more readable. But I really put so much in there about exactly what I did to really come to know who I was, because I never was taught how to be emotionally intelligent. There was no program. There was no education. There was no classroom tutorial on how to do relationships well, even though that is what we find ourselves in every single day for the rest of our lives. And so now, as I'm working with founders and executives and businesses, there's this kind of background theme that I'm really curious about, which is effectively bringing this to the masses at some point. I really feel called to this. I think communities need it, especially as we're seeing more and more layoffs and people's identities wrapped up in jobs now being gone. Well, who are you? What's left?